First of all, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to have a very interesting topic today, leadership in nature. And we're super grateful to have our guest speaker, Kelly, that I'm going to introduce in a moment. And before we start, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm happy to introduce these sessions that we're doing. It started as a virtual majlis during the lockdown. And the concept of a majlis is basically to share topics, discuss topics in politics and in any kind of business and news that are happening. But what we're doing here is not discussing any of those things. What we're discussing is basically topics that are helping us raise our level of understanding with ourselves, with our environment, being more receptive to what we want to enjoy in life, being more aware of our choices and taking responsibility for the things that we want to experience in life. And I'm super happy to have been joined by so many guests over the past few weeks. And today we have a very special guest, Kelly. I met you, I think, 2 weeks ago. And I want to share with the participants about the experience we had. So I went with my sister, and it was a mutual friend who invited us. And it was the first time that we hear about this meditation with horses outside in nature. I think it has a different name, but that's what I recall it as, meditating with horses. Let's do this. So we went there, and it was quite a ride. It was like more than 40 minutes from my house, but it was so much fun that we know when we just were driving there, we're just looking at the sun, and we're just going there. And when we reached to the stables, we're already sitting outside. And then the experience was so subtle, so nice. We enjoyed so many things. We were so present in the moment. And I would invite you guys and others as well to join these circles that Kelly has been organizing. And we're going to ask her more about this in a few moments. So Kelly, as an introduction, Kelly is a master certified Equus facilitator and an executive coach and mentor. And she has been blending the experience of 20 years of corporate careers and 10 years as an entrepreneur as well. I believe your new company name is True Leadership. Okay, perfect. And Kelly actually has been named the leadership coach of the year for 2019 by CEO Magazine. That's amazing. Wonderful, Kelly. I mean, 2019 was just here, and now 2020, and more things are happening for you, I believe, and for your company as well. And inshallah, to many successes, inshallah. So Kelly, as an introduction, basically, could you tell us more about what is your main message with the work that you're doing so far?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Fatima. It's really a pleasure to join you and all of your guests tonight. It's lovely to ask what is my main message, because when we go to work every day, we all have something that we do. And yet, I think it's beautiful that you chose this particular picture, because for me, this particular picture embodies my main message. I work with horses, and I help humans develop leadership, communication, creative skills by having interactions with horses. But that all lives in a bigger place. And the bigger place for me is to take people into nature and to show them around. I think so often the way we live these days, even look how we're connecting now electronically, is we forget that we also are a part of nature. So in this picture, you can see that this beautiful Arabian mare, she has no equipment on. There's no way for me to control her. In order to be in relationship with her, or to interact with her, or to have any kind of, to do fun things together, you can see my outreached hand saying, hey, would you like to connect? I'm interested in being with you. And you can see from her attentive ears and the way she's looking back at me that she's interested too, that there's an opportunity for connection. And that's what I think I offer to people. That's my bigger message, is that you also are a part of nature. And there's always a point of connection for you to move in the world of nature. So often we spend most of our day from the neck up in our head, and yet we have all of these resources. I never leave anywhere without my body. So we have all of these resources also from the neck down. And by partnering with nature, I help my clients to build those resources, build those muscles, and build their potential for all forms of connection.
That's wonderful. I believe that we're all connected with nature, with each and every one of us. Even you guys joining us here for the first time, or even the second time, or many times for you guys, there is a connection that we're building, whether in nature, whether electronically, whether energetically. We're all sending out something and receiving something as well from all aspects in our lives. And that's a wonderful thing, that when you have this connection and you can see it in front of you, such as the ears, the attentive ears for the horse, and you notice that they're not only looking at you with their eyes, or they're listening to you, their whole body is being very attentive and being aware of what is happening in their environment as well. So to me, that's very interesting, because we see that in animals outside. We don't really think about what goes on into their mind. Do they have the same monkey mind that we do, the one that jumps all over the place? Or what is it exactly that helps them talk without talking to each other? How do they understand each other without even speaking anything? I mean, is it them being telepathic, or what is it exactly from your own experience?
Well, I actually think that, I mean, if we talk about telepathy, telepathy and empathy come from the same root word. And when we are able to be present, so when we turn off the chat room in our own mind, and what am I thinking and how am I feeling, and am able to look towards another. So if there's a point of connection, if I'm able to notice that and pay attention beyond myself, that's where empathy comes into play. And there's always feedback then. We are in a direct feedback loop. So for example, whether it's a horse or a human, if I take a step towards them and they move away, that's feedback. If I don't pay attention to that feedback and I continue to walk towards them, I'm going to get a bigger piece of information. Either they're going to put their hand out and say, hey, back off, or a horse might just run away. So if I'm so busy in my own mind or with my own agenda, I stop paying attention to the feedback. And we always are in a feedback loop. We're in a feedback loop with all of the people, with all of the living things that that we encounter in any moment. And yet we pay so little attention to that. And there's so much possibility and potential in that feedback. And that is where empathy, my clients will say to me, how did you know that? And I will say, I don't know that, but I'm watching it right now. I'm watching it play out in front of me. So something that for them may feel like something private, or that they can't, that they don't show to others, is actually always there. And that's a part of how we build relationships with others. And so being aware of ourselves first, and then what we're putting out into the world in terms of opportunities for connection, it is a leadership practice. So that's where the horses help guide us to not only have an amazing experience with a non-verbal, non-human being, but to actually lead our lives and careers and families.
Definitely. And I believe that if anyone would go and experience just being with the horse, or even doing the coaching sessions with you, they'll definitely be able to come out of this experience with a different kind of understanding with themselves, what they put out there in the world. And I remember we did talk about, before we talked about something like the mirroring, so the horse might mirror what I'm putting inside. And we'll speak about this in a moment. So in terms of Equus coaching, what would you say Equus coaching teaches individuals in terms of trust? And if you could please introduce Equus coaching for those of us who are not, who are very new to this type of coaching.
Sure. So as I said, my partners, my business partners, and the beings that I spend most of my days with are non-human, non-verbal beings, horses. So Equus is what we call the non-verbal language of horses. So for example, those ears are a communication to me saying, you're interesting, I'm paying attention. And there are other gestures that horses will make that go, I feel comfortable with you, like we could have lunch. And there are other gestures that they make that say, hey, do you know where your boundaries are? And if I cross those boundaries, are you going to be aggressive and like lash out at me like a predator? Or are you going to be forgiving? What are you going to be like in this relationship? And they also have gestures that tell me, you know, the way you're behaving right now, I'm so happy to let you lead, to follow your lead in this moment. And so that's the nonverbal language of horses, Equus. And the coaching piece is, how do we make meaning of that? So each one of those things, I may go into this situation. I don't own any horses, so I'm always working with different horses. And when my clients come, I'm always working with different horses. Some I know or have seen before, and some that I haven't. And so the way that coaching works is, a horse is like 1,000-pound mirror for a human. So when you said, how do the horses communicate with each other? They communicate with their physical body. So they have meters and meters of gut. So you know how we as humans talk about gut instincts. Well, they have meters and meters of gut that's giving them feedback. So when we are standing in front of them, they're reading our blood pressure, our respiration rate, our pulse. So the tension that we're holding in different parts of our body. And they're looking at that and feeling, do you feel safe or unsafe? Now, safety, when we take that feedback from a horse is either going to lead, follow, or leave. So when we look at that as a mirror, if a horse is leaving, what I can guess the metaphor is, my client probably has anger, fear, something which a horse is unwilling to connect with. Now, believe you me, if that person goes into their workplace, there's going to be somebody who is equally unwilling to connect with them. If the horse is willing to follow, then there's something energetically about that person and their presence that they're willing to follow. And if a horse is going to lead, maybe that person is in fear or lacking confidence or doubting themselves. And so the horse is like, hey, you know, we're a herd, we're better together. Come with me, I'll take care of us in this moment. So each of those, as you can imagine, working with fear, working with self-doubt, working with uncertainty, working with frustration or anger, all of those things are things that we can coach around. And what's interesting is a horse doesn't lie. There's no part of it that wants you to like it. There's no part of it, it's just authentic. So the feedback that we get, for example, if I were with a human and the human was like, gosh, that woman is bossy, or that woman is, you know, had some feeling about me, they may still smile and say, oh, it's so nice to meet you. And somewhere internally, I can feel that there's a mismatch. And yet, I'm not going to say to them, I think you're lying. So, but with a horse gives you that feedback loop directly. And what we're able to coach with then is, what does it feel like when I'm not matching, when the point of connection is not working in a relationship, when we're not building trust, when we're not building relationship or potential. And that is something that I have in my body, just like hunger. Hunger, you might say, why are you talking about hunger? Because we all know what it feels like to feel hungry, right?
Definitely.
However, when you feel hungry, you do not have to eat. You have a choice to eat or not eat. But you can't not know that you're hungry, right? So my actions don't have to, I begin to turn on what I call your leadership GPS. So by working with horses, we amplify, we turn up that internal GPS that's giving us feedback about a situation. Oh, that person is stepping back when I come closer. Let me respect that and see if there's another way that we could build relationship. Oh, so I'm looking for potential and I'm reading the feedback empathically, and that's allowing me then to build closer and closer to points of connection where we have the opportunity then to create a business together or become friends or create a partnership in life or in work.
Definitely, I would say so, being attentive to the feedback that we are receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, and when we're interacting with people, there are subtle messages to be aware of, as you mentioned. So if I say, yeah, I like you very much, and inside I'm not feeling so good about you, you're definitely going to feel that, but you wouldn't understand. Some people might be confused, like, oh, I feel something, I'm not sure what it is. And for those people who are more intuitive, more in sync with their feelings, they might get some feedback and they might want to clear that message with the other person. So in terms of leadership, I believe that we all lead ourselves in our lives. And if someone does not lead themselves, then someone else is leading them, or life might be leading them in all kind of ways that they're going through. And at a certain point, I believe that one would wake up and be like, what have I done up until now? What do I want to do? And that might be an eye-opening experience for that person, if that's what they choose to do afterwards. And I believe that when it comes to nature, the word trust with nature works very naturally. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to us and the mind, and then the ego comes in, and us in leadership working with teams, it depends on people. But what I see, I don't see as much synergy as we would see with the horses, or with nature, with plants and trees and all the other stuff in the animals in the ecosystems or nature stuff. How does one develop trust, especially if they have a new experience in their life, like a new challenge, a new
Mm-hmm.
work experience? What would you say about that?
So trust is an excellent one. I love trust because trust has been a big teacher for me. So I'm curious. You can put a yeah, that's me in the chat if you like, but I'm curious how many people on the call think of trust as I trust you or I don't trust you. The reason why I asked that question, because I definitely used to be that. I trust that person, I don't trust that person. So horses have taught me a whole different perspective on trust, and it starts with reframing it. So changing my perspective to say, I trust you to be who I know you to be. Meaning, from our relationships, from each time I take a step towards you and you give me feedback, we're either moving towards trust or away from trust. And changing that perspective makes it almost gamifies it. It makes it more playful to go, oh, does this interaction that we're having today build trust or take away from trust? So that's number one. But in order to be in any form of relationship, in order to build trust, trust first has to be here. So it has to start with I trust myself.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you, because for me, with trust, it starts with trusting myself. being
Mhm.
able to believe that I'm going to be here for me. I'm going to show up for myself even when I'm faced with challenges. I don't know what I feel about them, but before, I remember I used to feel a bit maybe would feel some kind of fear around a new challenge, and because I wouldn't have been experiencing this new experience before. But then once I took this huge leap of, building this trust and leap of faith within myself, I've been able to accept new challenges as a form of, you know what, I want to do this. Let me just challenge myself.
Yeah. Well, I like to think of that as, so I ask myself two really simple questions, and this is a very easy coaching practice. When I first started doing this, I actually set an alarm in my phone to prompt me to ask these questions every hour of every day. And the two questions are, how do I feel? And what do I need? And simply asking those questions, how do I feel, forces me to check in. Maybe I notice, oh, my breath is up here. Maybe my shoulders are tight. I begin to notice, how am I feeling physically? And then reflecting on, what do I need? And then giving myself what I need. So the answer to those questions, and just as you said, that demonstrates to me, it builds the muscle in my own being that I am always paying attention. So if I feel terrified, so afraid that I can't take a step into doing something, what I need is to relieve the fear in some small way. So I need to take care of myself in that moment. Maybe I need to ask for help. And then I do that. So for example, if I have a client who's terrified of being next to a horse, maybe I have them stand on the outside of a fence. So you break it down into smaller and smaller steps. I like to call that right sizing. So you right size the challenge until you can take a step forward. And every time you take a step forward, if I take a step forward, let's pretend that I opened the gate and I went inside and my terror went back up again. No big deal. Now I know. Let me stand on the outside of the gate. That's colder, like the game of warmer and colder. So I'm constantly playing like, oh, okay, I could do that. So when I want to challenge myself to do something new, or when I find myself facing something new, I believe if there's something that I want to do and for some reason I'm not doing it, what I'm trying to do is too big. So it needs to be right-sized. It needs to be smaller in some way, shape, or form. And so by asking that question, how do I feel? What do I need? By continuously asking that question, I'm checking in with myself. What that does is build within me internal confidence and and knowing that I'm safe. It builds some internal safety because I'm not, like out there with nobody paying attention to me. I am paying attention to me. That's a leadership practice for me to pay attention to my life. Why should I expect somebody else to do that? So I will do that first. And then as I trust myself, then I can begin to trust the process that I'm in, whatever the process may be. And that is about clarity and intention. So for example, in a herd of horses, the horse, which is the leader, is not the oldest, it's not the fastest, it's not the strongest. It's the horse which is most clear, most broadly aware and paying attention, most capable to take care of the whole herd. That's the horse that everybody will willingly follow. So in order to trust the process, I may need to ask some questions. If I take this into a human example, what is the process that I'm going through? Do I have clarity? Do I have a clear intention of why I am entering into this? So trust myself, trust the process, and then trust my partner, not the black or white trust of I trust you or I don't trust you. I trust you to be who I know you to be. So for example, your beautiful sister is on the call. I expect you to trust your beautiful sister more than you trust me, because you have a history, you carry each other's history. You've built up that trust over time. That doesn't make me untrustworthy. That just means you don't know me yet. And that's okay. We have all the chances to continue to build trust. Each of us trusting ourselves, each of us trusting the process, and then trusting each other as we go along and taking the feedback. And even if the feedback is negative, go, no big deal. I'm gonna take a different action to take care of myself first, so that we can continue to move forward rather than the sort of black or white version of trust. So that's a lot of concepts in there, but that's the basic architecture.
I
And
think
for each,
sorry to cut you in, but I think that's a very wonderful segue into it. Like being able to realize that, being clear about your intention and looking at it in a herd of horses, like who is the leader, who is leading them, how am I being able to reflect that back into my life? And we have a question from Iman asking the question, what do I need? Is it mentally, or can it be tasks that I have to finish? This is her question.
so it's connected. Thank you for asking that, Iman. It's connected to how do I feel? So those two questions are a pair. How do I feel? I feel excited. I feel energized. What do I need? Maybe I need to share that with others. Maybe I need to write my book from this amazing energy. Maybe I need to work on my business. On the flip side, how do I feel? I feel a little fragile, or I feel a lot of pressure from having to work from home. What do I need? I need to call a friend. I need to go for a walk. I need to sort of ground and recenter myself. Um, you know, I need the self-care practices, which I can do in under 5 minutes, not the like take a vacation or have a massage that is something I need to take care of myself in this moment. So that's what I mean when I say, how do I feel? What do I need? I ask those two questions always together. And that doesn't mean that, like, you may ask those questions if you have a to-do list of 5 things that you need to get done. You may also look at your to-do list and feel, how does it feel to do that task, that task, that task, and what do I need? So here's a coaching practice that you can do. Maybe you need to cancel one of those things if it makes you feel terrible. If you can't cancel it, maybe you have a colleague or a partner that you could share the task with. Maybe there's a way you can improve it by, who knows, adding music or making it more enjoyable for you. Maybe for me, for example, emails are the bane of my existence, so I batch them. I do them twice a day, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And in that way, I'm not constantly getting bing, bing, bing with emails. That makes me feel better. And the last thing you might do is put a boundary around it. Like, an hour is enough time to spend on this. After I've spent an hour, I'm going to accept the quality to be good enough. So those are 5 ways that you can, take your to-do list and actually action them and right size them simply by asking those questions. How do I feel? What do I need? Imagining yourself doing that activity and asking that question. Again, building your muscle for trusting yourself.
Yes, definitely. And as Kelly said, when you start to trust yourself, you are building self-confidence, because you're constantly accumulating the experiences in your life that are different experiences that make you a different version of yourself in each and every moment of your life. And that no matter what transpires in your day or in your life, you are able to handle it, because guess what? You are here right now. So you've moved past through everything that you've went through, and you are here right now. And I believe doing a different kind of coaching experience with yourself, coaching yourself as well, leading yourself. One thing I did, Kelly, that basically reminds me to write down my feelings every now and then during the day. And then I ended up with a list. I did it for a week. I ended up with a list of so many feelings throughout the different hours of the day. And then I added what was the thought before this feeling that came out. So that I'm more understanding that what brings this up, and then how can I help myself in that moment of that day, for example. And
Mm-hmm.
you might notice some repetitive stuff, who knows, yani, and then you will realize what you can do to help yourself as well. It goes back to looking inside, being clear with yourself, being very honest with yourself, because you trust yourself and you're developing this kind of trust. And so one thing that you mentioned, Kelly, is the mirror. When it comes to the horse might be mirroring something. And I also believe that it's worth looking into the mirror, an actual mirror, and really checking in with yourself, being more, looking into yourself, allow yourself the space to develop perhaps empathy or compassion with yourself, because it's a really wonderful exercise. I myself try it, and I do it. I actually did it a few times, and I put a timer as well to just, give myself that space. And
Yeah.
now I wanted to ask you, Kelly, and before I do that, I would like to invite everyone who's on the call to also ask any questions, put any comments on the chat, so that we are also engaged in this together. And now the question is, shared leadership and cultivating shared leadership. What exactly helps when it comes to, creating this shared leadership in my personal and anyone's personal or in a professional aspect? Because whether we like it or not, we're all influenced by people in our lives, and we also influence them. So how do we cultivate this sense of leadership and making it more of a shared understanding?
Sure. Well, that's really about building a culture. And so building a culture is also to start with trusting yourself, then trusting that as you are coming together, as you're building relationship, you're each paying attention to the feedback. So for example, it's notice how much lighter that becomes when people say, oh, we need to fail, it's important to fail, but who wants to fail, right? But when you look at it as it's just feedback, no big deal, now I know. I don't have to, that idea of right sizing, I want to like test often and fail fast. So I'm happy for all those little failures where I get feedback and begin to better understand and trust the process that we're in. That way, so in a herd of horses, if one horse is the leader, and let's say it gets a cut in its leg and is in pain, the other horses aren't going to go, oh, wait, we signed up, you're the leader for life. One of them is going to step forward and fill that void of leadership. And I think what's so important from a culture, when you trust yourself, when you have confidence in your own capabilities, you also don't feel the need to go, wait, see me, pay attention to me, because you are really well attended, because you are paying attention to you. So if other people notice, or if they don't notice, you aren't feeling like I need to have all of the attention, which means when somebody seems to step forward to say, I can handle that, you have much more capacity then to listen, hear. That doesn't mean you don't also get to step forward, but you all lead from a place of your greatest potential, from the place of authenticity and high performance. And also, when you see somebody step forward and you can feel, wow, they have the confidence and are ready to do that, it's almost like, I'm happy to step back and give you space. It's the same way a horse will do when we do this. It looks like a dance. It's like the horse is happily willing to follow, but if you get distracted or aren't paying attention, then it's also willing to lead. in the same moment. And that, I think, is a skill that we need more of, because we each have something. Everybody is a leader. Everybody has something to offer. And what I hope is that people will be able to get out of their own way so that we can all put our offerings on the table to create something new. We're in this time of huge transition and transformation, and we are stronger and safer together. Each one of us has something to offer. And so by trusting ourselves, by trusting the process, by trusting our partners, we're able to have a leader in every chair. And that is a way more powerful team than the team with one, if you plug your car battery into me, maybe I can pull you around the block once or twice, but eventually I'm not going to be able to pull all the other people. Whereas if all 10 people are clearly moving together in that direction, that's a powerful team. And so being willing to step forward and step back, almost dance with leadership, to become so fluid in your own capabilities, your own confidence, and your openness to see the feedback where there's potential around you as well. That, I think, is the most high performing, high potential team that there is, whether it's a husband and wife, whether it's co-founders, or whether it's a business, a work team.
Definitely, and I would echo that as well, as stepping forward and also allowing space to perhaps step aside or step even with and together with the other person or the other team members. And I honestly believe that true leadership comes in, especially when you are challenged with a new challenge, whether it's a positive challenge or a not so positive challenge. It depends on your circumstances, and you definitely will perhaps maybe surprise yourself or surprise others that, you know what, I'm going to take this on and I'm going to work together with everyone because I'm not doing it by myself. So for me, this is actually what's helping me create more of these sessions and topics. I have a great team. I mean, my sister is one of my best team members, and we're all working together, whether we have a mutual understanding or not. I believe that we create the experiences for us to learn something. So for example, at one point I felt that, I was doing everything by myself and no one was helping me. And then I was looking into myself. I'm like, I created this experience. How can I ask someone to help me? And then I went and I talked to my sister in this instance, and I told her, I feel that I'm doing everything by myself. We're in this together, aren't we? And then she took on a task and she was helping me with. And I'm very grateful to have this mutual, understanding and mutual love as well, to pick ourselves together up. And we can do this.
Notice what you did was say, how do I feel? I feel like I'm doing this all by myself. What do I need? I need support. And you then, with that clarity, this is what I need, you put it out into the place, and there was potential then for shared leadership. So you are the perfect example.
Honestly, and this actually happened today. So I believe, yani, again, these experiences that we create for ourselves give us really good feedback. Once we sit down and really reflect with ourselves, look at every situation in your day, in your week, and understand that sometimes on my to-do list, for example, if I wasn't able to do one thing, there was something that was stopping me. And now I can look beyond myself so that I can get even a better, a better understanding of how I can achieve this task, maybe not by myself, maybe with someone else. And this is what shared leadership is about. When you start to share your experiences with others and have them come in and work with you together on something. I believe this is very powerful, honestly. And Kelly, thank you so much for explaining it thoroughly. And I believe that we all have these instances and these experiences where we can definitely check in with ourselves, check in with others, really be aware and attentive about the feedback that we are receiving, whether we're in nature, whether we are talking on the phone, or even with people. It's very nice to get out of, the mind chatter and really be present and understand what is happening in this environment. How is this experience helping all of us in this time and space, and what can make this even better?
Yeah. And that's where horses are master teachers. So for example, let's say I was a bad horse owner and I came into the barn and I was abusive to my horse. The next time I came to the barn, the horse would see me, my physical presence, and it would protect itself. But the minute that I leave, the horse would go back to eating hay, or going, oh, there's a cat, or paying attention to what's present. Whereas if I'm a bad parent, let's say I was abusive to a child, when I go away, what does the child do? The child says, I better not say that in front of my mom. I better not act like that. I better not wear that. I better not eat that. The child is getting abused again and again and again. And so horses are masters of teaching us how to be present. It's so beautiful to see somebody as they're trying to do something new with a horse to get confused or tangled up, and the horse will sort of stop and look at them. And then the minute they have a clear idea of how to move forward, the horse is like, oh, that's better. And it's instantaneous. It can be like, in 1 minute they're with you, then they're not. Then they're with you, then they're not. And so you can practice being fully present in that way. And when you are fully present in relationships with humans, you are like a bright, shining, magnetic star that people want to be around. And that is what I call true leadership.
Definitely. And I know that that the true stands for trust, unique, respect, I believe, and energy.
Trust. Yeah. And I like to think those are the values that I offer. Trust and respect your own unique energy. And when you are able to do that, you move through the world in a way that feels like magic. It's 100% a leadership play.
Yes, and Kelly, we all see this and with leaders, actual leaders on the TV, whether we read about them, they're really, to me, they present themselves as magnets. And
Yeah.
wherever they walk, people want to be in their presence, because not only this person is a leader of something, but their presence is very inspirational, even if they don't speak. They just stand there and they look, and they are very inspirational. And I also can say the same thing about horses. When I'm around horses, when I'm in nature, I just see this magnificent being, and I'm like, wow, it's so big, and it feels very like it's holding itself in a certain way that is very leadership. I mean, it's always showing me how leadership is. Whether they're playing, whether they're just walking and they're just standing, confused, eating, they are leading themselves. They are leading this 1,000 ton of body and mind and soul and whatnot, and they're all walking, going around, and they're aware of their space. I remember, I want to bring up this, when we were in a circle, we were around, I think we were eight ladies in the chairs, and they knew where to pass by. I mean, obviously they can see that, but they even when they went by so fast, they could sense their space and what exactly, where to move, how to maneuver. And it was honestly a very nice experience to see that in nature. It made me feel very humbled, and it was a very good experience.
That's why my intention for creating those circles is, for example, I just noticed with lockdown and Corona, everybody's under so much extra pressure, added pressure of all these changes, whether it's whatever is changing. It's changing a lot. And so I wanted to create a space that we could share. And my intention is, how do we come together and share space? And so I love that you noticed that about the horses, is that the way we created that experience, even though there's a 1,000-pound animal just next to you, you were accepted as a member of the herd, you were safe and protected, and you were free to express yourself, and they were free to express themselves. And isn't that something we don't think about, practicing those things, and yet that's so needed right now? Is how do we come together? How do we feel safe? How do we feel included? How do we build new ways of being in community? And that was my intention behind that, was to create a place where we can actually share space and be cared for. So I'm really grateful that you noticed that.
Yeah, I mean, that was, to me, it was an eye-opening experience, and I really, truly enjoyed it. And inshallah, we'll be joining you again. So for now, I believe we reached the end of the session. It has been a wonderful session so far. And Kelly, before we end, I just wanted to invite anyone, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to write them down, or even if you want to share them separately on Instagram, you can reach out to Kelly. I'm going to definitely add her, her Instagram account. You can talk to her on Instagram, and she'll definitely come back to you and talk to you about what questions you have. And I also invite you guys to when you can, go out and really enjoy the nature, whether you do it outside in your house, whether you join the circles that Kelly is organizing with the horses. It's a wonderful experience. And now, before we conclude, I just wanted to say that we are all leading ourselves and also others in our lives. And the way we choose to lead can be different in different aspects, in different circumstances. You always have the choice to check in with yourself and really choose the way that you want to lead yourself and also lead others around you. You always have this power of choice, the power of leading, the power of really being influenced with what nature is doing, and also carry that as well. And Kelly, if you want to have a few last words, please feel free to say what you want to say right now and before we end.
I just want to say thank you. So deep gratitude for everybody who's listened and joined us. And I want to say that you are a leader, and that to lead is a verb. So to lead is what you do each and every day. And because of that, it's not something that Fatima or myself or any of the leaders that you look up to were born with, and some other people were not. It's what you consistently do. It's what you practice. And if there's any way I can support you to practice how you lead, I'm here. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share this with your community that you are leading, Fatima.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I'm very much grateful to have you, and I'm super happy to have been being able to share you as well with the people that I have on these Zoom sessions. Everyone is welcome to join. I mean, every time we have different people, and we're super happy to have invite as well others who aren't aware of these sessions. So next Saturday, inshallah, we're going to have a different topic with a different guest speaker perhaps. And Kelly, I'm super happy to have you today, and perhaps maybe in the future we can have a few more sessions.
Absolutely. Much more to talk about.
Inshallah. And thank you so much. Thank you everyone who have joined us today. I'm super grateful for your time, for you being with us. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Inshallah, I'll be